I stumbled out of the grave like a man reborn, but it didn't feel like freedom. The sky had changed. It wasn't night anymore, but there was no sun either. Just an endless ashen gray, like the sky had been washed with bones. The gravestones around me had shifted again. Closer now, watching me. The bells were silent, but their strings stretched tighter, as if they were holding their breath. I wiped the dirt from my face and froze. The handprint on my cheek wasn't mine. It was larger, wetter, black with soil. Something had touched me, marked me. I looked around wildly, no one. But the open grave behind me was gone, only smooth earth, as if it had never existed. Heart hammering, I ran. Through fog, through crooked tombs, through whispers that tried to slip into my ears and crawl down my spine. I didn't stop until the trees appeared again. Twisted, bending in directions they shouldn't, but still familiar. The graveyard had let me go, but not because I won, because it was done with me. I reached the old forest road by sunrise, or what passed for sunrise in this cursed place. I turned on my phone. No signal. I turned on my camera. It turned on by itself. But the display didn't show my hands. It showed someone else's. Hands clean, pale, not dirty like mine. I raised my hand. The camera didn't respond. It was already recording something else. Then the audio began. Day 1. Arriving at the graveyard. My name is Daniel Crow. I'm here to document the impossible. I gasped. It was my voice, but not from memory. It was live. The screen shifted to a video of me. No, him walking confidently through the graveyard, smiling. Not scared, not lost, in control. And behind him I saw the tent. My tent, still standing, still zipped, and something still inside, breathing. Panic erupted inside me like fire. I wasn't free. I had been replaced. The thing that climbed out after me that looked like me was still out there, living, uploading, breathing, and the real me I wasn't even sure I existed anymore. I staggered into the nearest town that afternoon. People stared. Some stepped back, others crossed the street. I looked at my reflection in a shop window, but it wasn't a reflection. It was a delay. I blinked and then it blinked. I raised my hand and then it followed. And just before I turned away, my reflection smiled. I hadn't. I rushed into a motel bathroom, washing my face like I could scrub the grave off me, but the mirror didn't fog up. The glass stayed crystal clear, and through the steam I saw something carved into the surface. Not scratched, carved from the inside. Words, burned backward into the mirror glass. He walks while you rot. I staggered back, slipped, hit the floor. When I stood up, my shadow was gone. I walked into town like a ghost wearing human skin. Cars passed me, people walked by, shops opened, birds sang. Everything was normal, painfully normal. But I felt like I was watching the world through a window smeared with blood. Something was off, not in the town, in me. And when I saw my house, I stopped breathing because the lights were already on. I stood frozen on the sidewalk. Someone was inside. Through the curtains, I saw movement, a silhouette pacing the living room, holding a coffee mug, checking their watch, my watch. I walked up to the window, heart pounding like a war drum. Every part of me screamed not to look, not to confirm. But I did, and there he was. Me, sitting on the couch, laughing at something on the TV, wearing the exact same hoodie I lost in the forest. He turned slightly, and for a horrifying second, his eyes met mine straight through the glass. But he didn't flinch, he smiled. I staggered back, nearly collapsing on the pavement. A neighbor passed by, Mr. Halverson, someone I'd known since childhood. "Daniel! Hey there!" he called cheerfully. I looked at him. You recognize me?" He laughed. "Of course! You just moved back in a few days ago, remember?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. He didn't even notice I was soaked filthy, my skin pale and hands torn. He saw what he wanted to see. Because I was already here, I tried calling my phone. It rang. Inside the house, the other me picked up. My own voice answered, "Sorry, I can't talk right now. Busy dying." Then laughter. Then silence. I collapsed in the alley behind the bakery that night, curled up in the dirt like a child, rocking back and forth, trying to remember the feeling of my bed, my home, my identity. It was all slipping. And the worst part? I didn't feel pain anymore. My hands were scraped raw, no sting. My feet were swollen, no ache. My reflection in a shop mirror that evening didn't blink. I was fading. I broke into my house that night. Windows didn't creak. Alarms didn't ring. Doors seemed to open for me. He was asleep upstairs. I crept like a shadow into my old bedroom. There he was, my double, peaceful, warm, alive. I leaned over. He looked exactly like me. Except for one difference. His shadow was intact. Mine was still missing. And on the nightstand beside him, something glowed faintly. My camera, still recording, still blinking. I picked it up. There was only one video saved, titled Daniel Crowe Memory Copy Complete. The moment I touched it, the house began to shake. Not the walls, the air. Reality bent, folded, cracked. The photos on the wall melted. The wood grain on the floor began shifting, twisting into symbols. The same symbols from the graveyard bells. The mirror in the hallway shattered without sound. And the figure in the bed? He opened his eyes. But they weren't eyes anymore. Just sockets. Black. Endless. He whispered, "You had your time. Now it's mine. Go back. Go back to the soil." And then he screamed, but not a human scream. A sound like metal tearing inside a grave. The room folded inward like paper and I was falling again. When I woke up, I was back in the graveyard. But this time I was inside the grave, and the soil above already sealed. There was no light, no air, no sound, but I was awake, buried, alive, or something close to alive. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, but my mind. It was wide awake and screaming inside the coffin. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone down here. There was breathing beside me, slow, cold, wet. Not human breathing, hungry breathing. I turned my head slightly, enough to feel the rotting wood groan beside my ear. And then, a voice whispered in the dark, "Welcome back, Daniel. We've been waiting for you." The voice came from below me. Not beside, not above, below, as if the earth itself had a mouth. And now it was whispering through every bone buried underneath. Suddenly, I wasn't in the coffin anymore. I was under it, beneath the roots, beneath the rot, beneath the dead. And there I saw them. The others, the ones who came before me, hundreds, maybe thousands, all lying still but eyes wide open, watching me. Their bodies broken, twisted, bent backward like puppets with snapped strings. But every single one had a bell tied to their fingers, and all at once the bells rang. The sound didn't echo. It sank into skin, into memory, into soul. The ground began to tremble, and then it opened, not upward, inward, as if there was a door inside the dirt that only opened when you were already dead inside. I fell again, this time into something worse than darkness. I fell into memory, every lie I ever told, every promise I broke, every time I ignored a voice asking for help. I saw it all, not like flashbacks, like I was reliving it, and someone else was watching it all, judging me. I landed in a chamber made of bone, not built grown. The walls pulsed like lungs, the floor breathed like flesh. In the center was a mirror, cracked, bleeding. And in its reflection, I was no longer Daniel Crowe. I was one of them, gray, pale, empty-eyed, but smiling, because now it was my turn. I stepped forward, and a voice from the bone wall whispered, "Every man dies twice, once when the heart stops, and once when his place is taken. You died." The second time. Suddenly I saw the graveyard again, but now I was underneath it, literally, a part of it. My grave was there, sealed, and above it the other Daniel, laughing, filming, uploading videos, living his life, and no one would ever know, because this graveyard didn't kill you. It erased you and replaced you. The camera in his hand blinked red. Recording, but deep underground in the soil my eyes still moved, watching, waiting, and the bells. They began to ring again, one by one, because the graveyard wasn't full yet. Most stories end with death, mine began after it. Buried beneath stone, beneath root, beneath memory. I had become part of the graveyard, not just another victim, but a vein in its body. I saw what it saw, heard what it heard, and worst of all, I remembered. Everything. The grave, the bells, the copy, the betrayal. Every breath he took up there felt like a blade in my lungs down here. And then one night I moved, the soil shifted. The others, the dead, they felt it too. They turned their empty sockets toward me, not with fear, not with pity, but with approval, as if they'd been waiting for me to wake up, as if the one who digs himself out becomes something else. My hands were bones, fleshless, white, yet pulsing with life that wasn't mine anymore. I clawed upward, through centuries of dirt and rot, past broken caskets, crawling through tunnels of screams and buried sins, until my hand broke the surface. And I pulled myself out of the grave I was never supposed to leave. The world hadn't changed, but I had. I no longer cast a shadow. I no longer needed to breathe. I no longer felt pain. I was unseen, unnoticed, until I wanted to be. I stood outside my old house again. The other Daniel was inside, living my life, laughing in my voice, touching things that were once mine. I didn't knock. I didn't break in. I just stepped through the wall. He didn't see me at first. I stood at the edge of the room, watching. He poured coffee, checked his laptop, uploaded a video titled Ghost Graveyard, My Real Paranormal Experience. He laughed as the views skyrocketed. I leaned closer, whispered in his ear, "You missed one." He spun around, and for the first time he saw me. He screamed, but no one heard it, because when I touched him, everything around us froze. The lights, the fan, even the steam from his mug, frozen midair. Time obeyed me now. I pressed my hand against his chest, not to kill him, to show him everything. His betrayal, my suffering, the grave's hunger, the price of stolen breath. And then I gave him a choice. You can keep this life, but you'll never sleep again, or you come back. Where you belong, he cried, begged, shook. But the grave doesn't listen to tears. When I left his house, there were 2 graves open in the cemetery, and only one body remained above the ground. 3 years have passed since Daniel disappeared. No one really talks about it. His YouTube channel is still online, videos upload Hortehan regularly. His subscribers have doubled. His comments are full of praise. But the real Daniel is nowhere. Because the person in those videos isn't him. They say the graveyard was shut down, that it's just ruins now. Broken tombstones, wild vines, no trace of paths or names. But if you go there at exactly 3:13 a.m., there's something you still hear. The bell, not a loud ring, not even clear. Just a slow rusted chime, like it's buried under the earth trying to scream through soil. And every time it rings, someone disappears. They tried to record it. A paranormal team, 4 men, 1 woman. They set up cameras, drones, sensors, EMF meters. Only 1 video ever made it out, just 3 seconds long. A black screen, 1 bell sound, a whisper, too late. All 5 team members gone. Phones still ringing, cameras still recording, but no one ever answered again. Some say Daniel still walks. Not as a ghost, but as the guide, the caretaker of forgotten souls. He appears in the reflection of graveyard puddles, in mirrors cracked at the edges, on old phones that ring once at night and then never again. And sometimes you hear your own voice whisper back to you, "I lived once, now it's your turn." But the scariest part, you don't even have to visit the graveyard anymore. Because once you hear the bell, you're already marked. So if your lights flicker tonight, if your shadow moves when you don't, if your reflection blinks slower than you do, don't ignore it. Because the next video Daniel uploads might be yours. If you're brave enough to hear the bell, like, share, subscribe now. Because once you click play, there's no way back.